Okay.
Yeah, the whole thing looks different.
Yeah, I don't know. They've been changing a lot of stuff. Okay, we're back. Actually, as far as you're concerned, we were never here. We are experimenting with some technology the last week or so. And so we were broadcasting to a channel that doesn't exist. So,
At least in this reality.
not in this reality. Good roasted aromas.
Oh, good.
So, we'll start all over for those of you who aren't in the live studio audience. Welcome to Monday night. This is the Reader's Digest condensed version. It's Monday night. It must be Mount Shasta. This must be the Toltec discussions with Golden Eagle, which is me. Last week we were talking about perspective of the higher planes and your essential self and how to view this incarnation from that point of view. Any questions on that? Good. It was perfectly clear then. Okay.
I was just thinking about that dream that I had about the perspectives of being a grain of sand and then being in that orb and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of all about perspective.
Yeah, it was about
It's
perspective.
just to keep our perspective up. It's just like being an empath, it's hard. Like walking through the grocery store is like empathically being
Okay.
attacked by panic.
Stop it.
No, I mean,
No, I'm serious. Stop it.
Mhm.
Choose to make it easy. You know you're sensitive, so when you go out, have your shields up.
Mhm.
Okay, just stop being affected by it.
Okay.
Literally. It's that easy. Close your fields, turn it on, and you're not going to have that happen. Speaking of perspective, there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world right now, as you know. Every little cough or sniffle, even if you're choking on food, somebody assumes it's the coronavirus. Used to be every slightest cough. Oh, you need the Heimlich? Now it's like run away. Yeah. So there is some things I want you to be aware of regarding the human collective consciousness field and paradigms. If you've heard me once or even twice, you've probably not escaped without me talking about paradigms. So I don't think I need to remind you what a paradigm is. Anybody, those in the studio audience had better not ask what a paradigm is. And anybody online, if you have legitimately never heard of a paradigm, great, please type into the chat that you don't know what a paradigm, that's how you spell it, paradigm, the G is usually silent.
Do I get points for Thomas Kuhn?
You get a ding for Thomas Kuhn.
I don't remember the name of the book, but...
The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. So, you've heard me talk about paradigms, but literally, back to my state. If you're online, you don't know what a paradigm is, please type in the chat and I'll explain it. It's one of my top 50 favorite things to talk about, is paradigms.
Don't do it, don't.
So, the thing about paradigms is we mostly think of a paradigm as a temporary thing, even if temporary is a few centuries, like the flat earth thing, or, a human being can't run a mile less than 4 minutes. Everybody knows that story, right?
It's the 100 Monkey Syndrome.
Kinda, yeah. So it was assumed, because nobody had ever done it before, that a human being was physically incapable of running a mile in less than 4 minutes.
Well, that's been disproven.
Well, yeah, but the story of how it got to, do you know the story of how? Okay, that's what I'm trying to tell you. there was a medical student by the name of Roger Bannister. Jim Ryan came later, sorry, I almost got it wrong. Roger Bannister, he was English. And yes, I'm giving credit to an Englishman. And his studies of physiology suggested that a human being should be able to run a mile less than 4 minutes if they trained properly and trained their muscles right, trained their endurance right, built up a certain oxygen reserve in their bloodstream, all the very modern physiology. This was back in the 50s or 40s, I don't remember the year, I apologize. And so the closest anybody else had come was 4 minutes and 2 seconds. You think, man, 4 times around the track, somebody ought to be able to knock half a second a lap off, right? And come up with a 4-minute mile, but nobody had. So in some big fancy international meet, Roger Bannister made it into the finals of the mile run, and he won the race. And this was in the days literally of handheld stopwatches. They didn't have electronic timing with lasers and a big scoreboard with the time projected on it. So the guys with the stopwatches would have to get together and compare, and they take the top, there's 3 watches on each runner, and they average the time. And so they have to sit down there with their calculator or their slide rules in those days and average the time and do the math. And so the crowd is waiting with bated breath. What was the time? Everybody knew it was fast. Looked fast. And so when the announcer started to announce the time, the winner of the mile run was Roger Bannister, and a time of 3 minutes and pandemonium. Nobody heard the 59.6 seconds, which is what I think his time was. It had been done, right? And hadn't been done ever. And within 2 months, about a dozen other people broke it. Mm-hmm. And then not only did they break the 4-minute mile, they broke Roger Bannister's record. So he was world record holder for about a month. And he never broke he never broke that record again. Right? He's famous for having been the world record holder for 1 month, maybe even less. And it was that mental paradigm that he broke. So those are the kind of paradigms we're used to. 4-minute mile, flat earth, man can't fly. Well, no, don't count hot air balloons. That's lighter than air, but anything heavier than air can't fly. Oh wait, Wilbur and Orville, that one's out too. Airplanes can't fly faster than the speed of sound. Oh wait, Chuck Yeager, relatively short term. What we don't always understand, what we don't always remember or have ever even been aware of, is the fact that we still have limiting paradigms in the human collective consciousness field that are ancient, very, very old. Every bit as dangerous and limiting for humanity as the flat earth paradigm was. All of the religious paradigms that say, you're a lowly mere human, you can't talk to God. And if you think you're talking to God, you're really talking to the devil, because God won't talk to you, you're just a mere mortal. And only the anointed, ordained purveyors of official religion are entitled to and especially anointed to talk to God. So you have to talk to them and they'll talk to God, and don't believe anything else you think you're hearing from God. Or angels, or archangels, or saints who have died, any of that. No, you can't possibly be doing that. So that's a paradigm out there still.
Fairies are okay, right?
Say again?
Fairies are okay, right?
Fairies. Well, in this modern politically correct world, that's not a very nice thing to call homosexual. That just isn't
He's on a
acceptable
roll tonight.
anymore. That is not acceptable.
It must be the vest, magic vest. It's a nice looking vest,
looks-
by the way.
It looks good with this
Yeah,
medallion.
yeah, you look really good in that.
Well, thank you, ladies.
Rather
appreciate
handsome tonight.
But I'm married.
Yeah, but I could flirt right in front of the wife.
Yeah, I know.
I'm afraid of her. I wouldn't do anything.
Well, she's married to a 4th-degree black belt martial artist, so you better be careful. If she doesn't get you, he will.
She's lethal too.
I know.
I'm just sitting here.
I wouldn't mess with you.
Just for everybody's, the wedding present we gave each other was swords.
Oh, cool.
Real swords. Carbon steel, hand sharpened by me, that really could gut a Roman.
I like to see those one day.
We'll show them one day. So, there are other paradigms that are very limiting. And some of them are about things that haven't happened yet, but which we expect to happen.
Like for example, like when was it? 2000, when they thought the computers were just going to crash and
Right.
everything.
Right.
Y2K.
Y2K, year 2000, K is the abbreviation for 1,000. And, I had no clue, right? I was working as a geeky engineer at the time, leading up to Y2K. Well, up until late 98 when I quit to go to medical school. And I had no clue this was even an issue. And so, but yeah, that would be one. And it's all based on computer software. And it's like, well, just change the programming. Well, we don't know what'll happen. It's like, okay, you wrote a program and you don't know what'll happen. Thank you very much. Can I have my money back, please? And then that is all tied up around, of course, the Mayan/Toltec calendar and the year that was computed to be 2012, or so we thought. Some people thought it was the year 2000, others 2012, because that's when the Mayan calendar was going to end. Well, wait, we translated it wrong, so it just is the start of a new cycle. So, okay, but it is the end of an old cycle, so old ideas go flying out the window. You all remember 2012, that year when nothing happened, but nothing's been the same ever since? Yeah, that one. So those are examples, right? They're based on, a lot of the fears are based on things like the biblical prophecies of the end times and the apocalypse, which if you read the Bible in the book of Revelations, the apocalypse and the end times, it describes some specific bad things happening, but there's a lot that's very vague. It's not clear. The Hopi prophecies about this same time say, yeah, something's going to happen, and some of it could be bad, but how bad it gets, how long it lasts, and how fast we recover depends on how many wake up and take action, the most appropriate action being live in a way that's in harmony with the planet and in harmony with each other. Humanity. And that's really what I want to talk about today, is this harmony with the planet and with each other. The Toltec philosophy we talk about the transcendence of the human race. And there are many aspects of that. One is we raise our spiritual frequency, we evolve both in one incarnation and over many incarnations, so the human race transforms into something. What was that old $6 million man TV show lead-in?
Bionic Man?
Yeah, the Bionic Man.
Lee Majors.
Lee Majors. I didn't really care about Lee Majors.
Well, you weren't a girl, were you?
Farrah Fawcett Majors, on the other
tight
hand.
white shorts.
Yeah.
Very short white
Yeah,
tight shorts.
yeah, like basketball white shorts.
But his first wife, Farrah Fawcett Majors, who very unfortunately died of breast cancer, I had her poster, that classic swimsuit poster.
The red one with the titties showing on it.
Yeah, with the little nipple action.
And he remembers this too.
Well, you can't live through the 70s.
You can't live through the 70s and not remember that poster, because I had it up all through high school, whenever it came out, and all through college. And then it probably got destroyed at some point. Or, you know, I may have turned it over to somebody else in my fraternity when I graduated. That just went out into the world. But
It's probably worth some money now.
but the show said we can make him better than he was. Better, stronger, faster, smarter, more intelligent, better looking, you know, all those things that we associate with an upgrade. So, so that's what the Toltec work is about. Is this upgrade. An upgrade of consciousness and an upgrade in evolution and a transcendence into something better. More capabilities. Better able to interface with the higher planes and bring that knowledge and power through here. And over a course of generations, 2, 3, 4 generations down the road, the humans being born are going to be very, very different than we are now. Than the ones being born now, and the ones being born now are a little different than those of us who were born last millennium.
I kind of had an analogy from the past, actually, is when the Israelites were kept out in the desert, you know, for 40 years, until they had produced the offspring that weren't confined by the paradigms of the past, either living in Egypt or living in a desert or whatever, but there was probably also a physical capability that they needed to have to be able to hold the higher level spirit priesthood.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting example and a good one. Ding, ding, ding.
Yay, 3 dings.
For those of you who aren't as biblically astute as our dear friend Oria Luce over here, when Moses led the people out of Egypt through many, many miracles, and every one of the Israelites leaving had seen these miracles firsthand, no sooner did they get out of Egypt than they started showing a lack of faith. There's a whole golden idol thing, and then crossing the desert, many more. And when they finally got up to the point where they were close enough to the promised land to send scouts in, they selected one individual from each of the 12 tribes and sent them in to scout out the land. How can we do it? And some of these were still the Philistines and everything, and they were a race that were taller and stronger. They may have been the second or third generation down from the giants that were in the land in those days, as the Bible describes.
What was it, Goliath and Philistine?
Yeah, yeah. So when we get up to David, of course, this is a Philistine.
Frankenstein.
Exactly. But if you start to sing and dance, I'm going to throw sharp objects. And I have one right here. The scouts came back And 10 of the 12 scouts from the 10 of the tribes said, oh my gosh, these people are big, they're huge, they're scary looking, they have big knives. There's no way we can beat them, we don't dare go in. Only 2 said, yeah, they're big, but the land is there just like the prophecy said. And if God said we should go in, then we're going to go, we should go in. And so, but 10 of them wouldn't. Their tribes would not go. And so part of the 40-year delay was that you needed to produce a whole new generation, and everybody who actually left Egypt had to die. Live out their old age in the desert and die.
They didn't change their perspective.
Right. The only 2 people who left Egypt who were allowed into the promised land were the 2 scouts who said, yeah, we can take them. God will be with us and we can take them. That was Joshua and the other name I forget.
Was that the one with the giant grapes?
Maybe. It's been a while since I've read that story in the book of Exodus. So, not even Moses was allowed in. He was ascended before that. But the only 2 who were allowed in, I think. So there was a huge paradigm shift when it was just we think we can, but everybody else thinks we can't. So they didn't. Right. So that's a little more of the story about that time. So some of these stories that come down to us are about now. This time.
Caleb, Joshua and Caleb.
Oh, Caleb, thank you. And to whom do I owe the...
Miss Pamela Chappell.
Pamela, welcome. Why don't we go down the list of who's online before I proceed?
Who's on first? Mohadib,
Yeah.
Muad'Dib,
Pamela,
welcome.
Dennis,
Dennis.
William.
And William, thank you. A ding for everybody online
Everybody gets a ding.
for showing up.
Huzzah! And George is here. Hi, George.
George Gamboa. You're missing all the fun up here, George. We had more snow over the weekend. It was 6 inches, but it's down to like a half an inch already. I ran the snowblower, but it was blowing more gravel than snow, I think.
Right.
I just didn't want a half inch to an inch layer of ice on the driveway for the next however long if it got real cold. So this notion that bad things are going to happen is a paradigm. Yes, it's a prophecy and it might happen, but how bad it gets is in our control. Right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, that puts the ball firmly in our court, to use a tennis analogy. Or it could be volleyball. I don't think it works in croquet or badminton. Yeah, we'll stick with tennis. So, if how bad things get is in our control based on our actions, what should we do?
Control our actions.
Yeah, how?
Controlling our paradigm by higher consciousness and perspective.
Good. Keep going with that thread.
And push the boundaries of what I could do or what humanity could do.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. Ding, ding, ding.
And who's to say that I can't fly?
Yeah. Exactly. That's where I'm going. That's where I want to steer our conversation and our work here for a while. This is the next step on this perspective exploration.
It's very childlike to think that way because when you're little, especially if you're a little boy, You have no boundaries. There's no limits, you know, and they stand on a roof, they think they could fly off a roof.
I did that.
Until they find out that it didn't work out very well.
I did that too. We had a woodshed, and one end was woodshed, the other end was tool shed. And I would jump off it, trying to fly. Didn't work. So we're going to start thinking of all the things that a culture would do at a time of great change if that culture was not fear-based, embraced change because they knew that out of the chaos something better could be created. What would that culture do? You know, what kinds of things would they do? Would they run out and hoard all the toilet paper themselves, even if they had literally a 3-year supply?
Well, we don't know how long this is gonna go on.
True.
You might want to TP the White House with all the toilet paper.
Oh, it's much too expensive and a commodity to go throwing rolls.
Oh, yeah, no, right.
Now,
This
those
is
days
like,
are gone last century.
this is
now.
like the tulip market.
I remember every year when I was in high school, when I was on the football team, for homecoming, I don't know how the girls got out of their homes all night long, but all the cheerleaders would go around to the house of every football player on the team and TP the house, the yard, the trees, and your car, and there I would come out to drive this car, and it would have like the shaving cream all over it with my football number, and you know, go Arlen, kill the whoever we were playing that year in homecoming game. My senior year, our homecoming game went really well. We slaughtered whoever we played. But yeah, I come out and it's like I hadn't been out early morning. I'm already leaving early in the morning, so I come out of the house and I go to get my car and I'm like, I was late to class, but fortunately I don't think I was quite 18 yet. So I just went to class and the teacher looked at me and he said, "You're a little late, aren't you?" And I go, "Well, the cheerleaders TP'd my car. I couldn't get here." And everybody laughed. Teacher let me off because I was passing the class easily, so he wasn't worried about me passing the class.
We used peanut butter and marshmallows.
You would have come. I would have gone over, borrowed somebody's car, and drug you over there to clean mine. Let me tell you. Yeah.
I guess she
So-
was one of the ones that did it.
Toilet paper is just way too valuable now. I mean, it's going for. What did I see the thing on the internet? One of those memes. Yeah, had a picture of a single roll of toilet paper wrapped in a gold bow in a store window that was like at a shopping mall, like a jewelry store, and it said, "One roll of toilet paper, $3,500. Buy this and you get a free diamond ring, free 1-carat diamond ring."
That's a good one. That's somebody with a sense of humor and good marketing, right?
Yeah.
Buy stock in toilet paper.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, the stock market's crashed. We won't go there.
So, the fact that this is all happening tells us that it's time to upgrade our perception and our perspective. And our very crucial, our expectations. So we're going to be working on this. I'm going to start producing a few small blogs a week on the new perspective on how we should interact as humans. We should be working for the benefit of all beings everywhere. So instead of hoarding toilet paper, if you've got your 2-year supply of toilet paper, call all your friends. Hey, you got enough toilet paper? And make sure everybody has some. The other meme I saw was the kids and the parents sitting around. This one's funny. Sitting around a dinner table and the child's saying, "Mommy, how come we don't have any food?" And the mother says, "Shut up and eat your toilet paper."
That's a good one.
Yeah, I like that one. That made me laugh just thinking about it. I can barely tell you that. Shut up and eat your toilet paper.
The one I liked was it was a full case of beer in the cold section. And you don't really notice it at first when you read the headline. It says someone made a choice here, and I was kind of thinking, oh, somebody made the choice to stock beer instead of toilet paper. But no, down in the beer there's a roll of toilet paper. I mean, a whole package of toilet paper. So somebody had obviously put the toilet paper down and got some beer.
Instead.
So somebody made a choice here.
Well, that's telling you is that toilet paper is as expensive as beer now.
Right.
Then the next person that wants beer goes, "Oh, there's a toilet paper."
Right.
So yeah, I'm gonna be challenging you to find ways to work for the benefit of all beings everywhere. We need to work. This is the time for humanity to work as a community. Use our Toltec principles, right? Food and farming production, or food production and farming. Yeah. Health. Is everybody in your circle of peers healthy? Education. Is there knowledge that needs to be shared? That's why on my other YouTube channel, the Dr. Cage channel, I did my my basic primer on your immune system and how that relates to pandemics, and why common sense measures like washing hands and prevention, and stop eating the bad immune suppressing foods and start taking your nutritional supplements, and keep yourself strong and healthy. Okay, make sure your friends are doing the same. We need to work more as a community. And this is really crucial. I challenge you all to adopt an expectation of a more desired outcome than the Mad Max-like scenarios.
So what's the challenge again? I was taking
Well,
notes.
I'm going to be I haven't given you the challenge exactly yet, but
Okay.
I'm going to be telling you to start meditating, start visualizing any way you can. I'm going to have some over the next week that I suggest that will help in this. Like a year plus ago, we were doing those meditations, you recall. We're going to be doing something similar, looking for a different outcome. So this one's going to be more specific. That one was like general but important. God lives, remember that stuff?
Well, we did the one.
Love is the answer.
We did the one where we were supposed to be, finding an issue and
Right.
then coming up with a new solution, or not a solution even, just a new. So it's
Paradigm.
kind
And
of the same thing.
It's going to be taking off on that. So just to refresh everyone's memory, that was last year. At the beginning of the year, I challenged everyone to find an issue and work on it. And some of you actually took steps to come up with, as Buckminster Fuller calls it, a new paradigm that or the new model, whatever you call it, that makes the old methods obsolete. And some of you were working on similar issues, some of you on your own, and so I hope that was a good education and a good start, a good practice. But here what we're going to be doing is we're going to be coming up with ideas, and we're going to be having specific meditations for specific outcomes on specific subjects, and we're going to be doing this work in the higher planes first. So that's where we're going. I don't have all the details really ready to roll out tonight, other than to tell you this is coming, change your perspective, and start doing this as the best you can imagine. When you do your morning meditations, or your evening meditations, or your midday afternoon meditations, or your 11sies meditations, or your second breakfast meditations, your afternoon tea, lunch, and dinner supper, all those meditations, right? You're supposed to laugh.
No, this is serious.
Yeah, but I'm ripping off The Lord of the Rings.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen The Lord of the Rings?
Not all of it, just like, not in sequence.
How did she get into the school?
I thought we had a screen. You know, they have to know Monty Python,
Right.
they have to know Back to the Future, and they have to know Lord of the Rings. They don't do that, they can't get in.
I saw them out of sequence.
And that would be like saying, oh, I haven't seen Star Wars. I only saw the 8th movie and didn't bother with the first 7. Or I saw the 3rd Matrix, but I didn't watch the first. Do we have that horsewhip out front still?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, perfect. I know what to do with it after broadcast tonight.
Mola Deeb, she's after you. First she says fail, and then she says little eagle lost her ding.
No Lord of the Rings. Oh, man. What do I do? Such a dilemma.
I only saw a couple of them.
All right, moving on. Oh, I have ways of dealing with the likes of you. So yeah, when you do your meditations, implement this idea the best you can until I provide a little bit of further guidance in the next few days. And we don't want to embrace the apocalyptic Mad Max zombie scenarios. We're going to create a better world starting in the higher planes. Any questions online?
No, but you have confessions.
Oh, confessions. Well, let's hear the confession.
You want to hear the confessions? So Pamela says, no Lord of the Rings here either. Just The Hobbit, nor The Matrix. And I told her, Pamela, we need to talk. The Matrix is a work movie.
Okay, so let's be clear about that. The first Matrix is a good work movie. The second two are crap. Don't waste your time or money. The Hobbit movies were garbage. The Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson was on it. That was his moment, right? Everything before and everything since has been garbage. He made The Hobbit too over-commercialized. He added too much that wasn't in the books. And he kind of lost it, in my opinion. So, yes, the Lord of the Rings.
She says not the movies, the books.
Oh, the books are good. The Hobbit book is good. The Lord of the Rings books are great. And the Lord of the Rings movies are very, very good. And they too are a work movie if you want a living, breathing, walking, talking example of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. Both Lord of the Rings, the story of Frodo and Aragorn both qualify. In the Hobbit book, the story of Bilbo qualifies.
Okay, precious.
Okay, you get half a ding back.
Yeah. But you know that from the movie, but who said it in the book?
I didn't read the book.
Okay. We need to talk.
Aaron's online with us.
Oh, Aaron, welcome. You'll want Aaron, if you just got on, you're going to want to watch this from the beginning. It has to do with future direction. And since you're now here, Aaron, let me just say this. Holding the Akadwa energy is crucial at this time. And if you don't have it, you need to get it.
Just ask.
So as soon as this broadcast is over, you need to ask. And I'll tell you what's what. So yeah, working for the benefit of all beings everywhere, working in harmony, living holistically in communities that are sustainable, to use the modern parlance. This is a new, well, it's not a new it's a return to an old paradigm that was not well enough defended in the past, the distant past. And people took it for granted. This philosophy of the Toltecs that we call the Toltecayotl, the highest Toltec creations.
Didn't the church interfere with a lot of this?
Oh yeah, the church has blood on our hands at every step of this way. But the Toltecayotl had started to decline in this continent long before the Roman Catholic Church got here. So we can't blame all of it on them. But everything recent in the last 500 years, yeah, we can and should. So what this is at a crucial juncture of human history right now. In that you're watching, those of you who are even partially awake, you're watching the masses behave in ways that were unfathomable and really not predictable as recently as a couple of years ago. And then the government started making zombie jokes. And the government started publishing things like action plans for how to deal with a zombie apocalypse. Government, U.S., I have it somewhere in my computer. The notice they sent out that there's a zombie apocalypse manual published by some obscure government agency somewhere. So yeah, there's some behind the scenes politics here being manipulated by the dark side that we just have to be smarter because we've got higher powered guys on our side. And gals. So let me just remind you, some of you are my formal students in this Toltec lineage. Some of you are not, but you are in the category of what I would call friends of the school. And you are friends of truth. And you are friends of higher knowledge. And so, especially for my formal students who have made a commitment to themselves and to humanity, I'm going to be pushing you on this. Those of you who are not formal students, whether you become so or not isn't the point. What I'm doing is I'm also inviting you to participate in these activities, because we can't have too much good work being done for humanity. And I can tell you that the Toltec lineage, after studying many, many, many of them, to me is the most complete, the most elegant, and quite frankly the most powerful of all the advanced spiritual lineages you could study.
That have come down to us complete.
That have come down to us complete. Yeah, who knows? I mean, some of the ancient mystery schools were wiped out. You know, armies came riding down and they lost. But none of that knowledge is lost on the higher planes. It's all there. It can all be tapped into. And as long as we have people embracing it and willing to learn and step up and do the work, then humanity will always have access to this information. It's never lost. It's always there. And those of you who want to learn the techniques of how to access that information, that's part of what we teach in a Toltec school. It's camouflaged extremely well by the standards of our modern culture because it's disguised as work. I mean, you look around at the world, a lot of people are turned off by the concept of having to work and work hard. And they want everything handed to them on a silver platter. They want to punch a few buttons and have the Amazon Prime drone fly in through their open door, or use the computer codes to open the door, fly in, drop it on the coffee table and fly away.
Or take a pill.
Or take a pill to get well. God forbid they have to read a book on nutrition that could save their life. Or read the instruction manual for how to be successful in your incarnation. By the way, I hope everybody has seen some of the announcements I've put out, be it email and on Facebook, that the instruction manual is being published next month. The instruction manual for how to be successful in your life as a human. The title is called Handbook for the Recently Incarnated. The author is Golden Eagle. And these are the instructions you wish you had when you were born. Because as soon as we get here, the process of getting here does a really good job of erasing most of our memories of the instructions we were given just before we took incarnation. And so this book is designed as a very advanced technology to help you unlock your memories of those instructions. Your pre-incarnational instructions, as we call them. So,
How cool is that?
yeah, so it's on sale now. Go to my website, toltecshamanicarts.org. There is a tab called Handbook, meaning Handbook for the Recently Incarnated. And there's a link. You have to give us your shipping information, like where to send it, and then you have to give us, click the link to give us money. And the price that's there includes shipping and autograph.
Yay!
So when it's published and this introductory offer is over, the price will probably be the same. but it won't include shipping an autograph. So you get an autographed copy of the instructions for how to be successful on Earth, and shipping's included. So the handbook for the recently incarnated is one of the major pieces of work that was as part of my true will to deliver to humanity at this time. It wouldn't have worked 20 years ago, or even 10. It's now. These are the instructions for now. And the reason I was asked to do this, or volunteered / voluntold, it's all the same. The reason it's coming out now is our culture is changing rapidly. The instructions from 100 years ago don't fit. We need modern instructions to get through the layers and layers of social programming and hacking that have been implanted in the human collective consciousness to impede your success. That's its main purpose. And one example is this expectation that bad things are going to happen and there's nothing we can do about it. When the fact is there's a lot we can do about it. And the prophecies tell us that. Not just the Hopis. Even the Bible tells us that. So get your handbook and get serious about your personal practice on a daily basis. Is that a question?
Well, doesn't the coronavirus have a lot of gifts in it? Because we got complacent as humanity, at least in the United States and as well as the world, as being too comfortable. Like we always take for granted the toilet paper is going to be there, for example. You know, I'll go in the store and I have 20 choices of what toilet paper I want to get. And, you know, the meat's going to be there, you know, and whatever, the vegetables are going to be there. We're just way too complacent that, like, okay, Red Blood's been told the schools are closed, you know, and now what? It's like we have no backup plans. And it's all our perception of how we are in society and comfortable, and we're spoiled. I mean, I watched the Lost Boys, these kids that suffered genocide. 5 of them were flown over here and they tripped out just with a light switch in a flush toilet. They thought it was a miracle. They sat there for a half hour watching this toilet flush. They couldn't believe it. And a light switch, like you turn it on, there's light. You know, something we take for granted. When the power's out, what do? Flip the light on and you're bummed because the light doesn't come on. We're just way too spoiled.
Partly that's true. We are spoiled.
We're disconnected.
We're disconnected from reality, especially those of you who live in cities. I've seen several city versus rural memes lately, and none of them were written very well. But people in cities don't know where their food comes from. They don't know where their water comes from. They don't know how to build a fire if the heat goes out. And a lot of these cities, it gets cold. Of course, in San Francisco, let's say that's a very cold city at times. Even if you have a fireplace in your house, where are you going to get firewood, right? They probably delivered it at $500 a cord in good times, not necessarily now. So people are going to go down and start, if they are one of the few who know how to make a fire, they're going to be hacking down people's fences and stealing the trim off other people's houses to build a fire just to stay warm. The big city model is partly the problem because it's not sustainable. You have to ship food hundreds of miles, if not more, all to this big city where people they can't afford enough space to store more than a day or two's worth of food. So yeah, the cities need to come down, and I mean that literally, because they're not sustainable. We need to spread out, and we need to have smaller, more manageable, more sustainable communities.
It's like
And when the city gets big enough, then we need to make a conscious decision that, okay, some of us need to move. This isn't healthy, this isn't safe.
Well, that comes from building regulations and everything that we claim to have, and yet they let people build in floodplains and in, cliff edges and all of these things. And they allow the building to continue and continue and continue when you can't sustain it. There's no water to sustain it.
There's a lot of examples. See, these are all good subjects for what do we want to create instead. I think a lot of us recognize a lot of the problems. So what's the solutions? That's what we're going to be meditating on, one subject at a time. So yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, right now the number of homeless in the country is going up, and we still have 4 times as many empty houses. Well, last time I checked the statistics, 4 times as many empty houses in this country as there are homeless people. Millions of homeless people and many, almost 20 million empty homes. And we're building more. There's something wrong with that picture.
right.
When that's what a society and a culture thinks is acceptable.
When you compare humanity to the other species on this planet, for the most part, they don't get out of control, because once they do, it throws off the whole economic or eco balance.
If a species overproduces, they eat themselves out of the available food, and then they start starving. And so there's this lead lag thing, right? Too many rabbits, then all of a sudden the coyotes have food, and the coyotes go up in population. That causes the rabbits to go down, which causes the coyotes to go down, or the rattlesnakes, or the grizzly bears, or the fill in the blank predator prey animals. Humans.
I think this is, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I think this is just the start of breaking down the paradigm, our comfort paradigm of humanity, and that, things are changing rapidly, and that's what's freaking people out.
Right. We've been comfortable too long, and one thing I guarantee you about this Toltec work is not just on a major societal shift standpoint, but on a day-to-day basis, as you change your nervous system, as you change your consciousness, as we force you to look inside, and by force I don't mean I'm going to grab you by the scruff of your neck and hold you in the fire. I'm simply going to teach you how to grab yourself by the scruff of your neck and force yourself into that refiner's fire, and look in the mirror and look at your shadow self and deal with the out-of-date beliefs and paradigms that humanity has and our culture has put into us. All of that has to be purged for you to make the optimal, maximum progress in each incarnation. And the Toltec techniques that we teach as part of this esoteric process are such that we can accelerate into one incarnation the work that would normally take many incarnations. So when we're building a pyramid, a physical carved stone, stack them up into the shape of a pyramid. When we do that work, we can't put the capstone on until the second to the last layer is in place. The second to the last layer can't be put on until the third to the last layer is in place, and so on, all the way down to the pyramid. And you need a foundation first, and then you need a first layer, a second layer, and you build up. When you're limited by gravity, that's what you have to do. And so that's kind of where we're at, is humanity, some of humanity is ready to go forward and some are not. And so our job in this Toltec lineage right now is to deliver instructions and do what we can to change the collective consciousness of humanity, to embrace a more holistic and sustainable model. A sustainable model for human culture that will be more user-friendly from the standpoint of fewer obstacles, but not one that is so comfortable that we forget how to survive. There always needs to be work required. So that's where we're at. Is we're going to say no to the propaganda being pushed at us by mainstream media, by governments, by whomever is pushing propaganda of limitation and fear. There was nothing about our true nature that limits us to that. Question.
I've noticed it's kind of like that morbid sense of curiosity, like when you drive by an accident scene and you're, concerned for the people, but at the same time you're looking to see if you see blood, and so I think that there's shifts that we can make right now in our regular daily habits. If we're on the internet too much, if we find ourselves chasing after whatever the last news is, and finding ourselves at home with not a purpose because we're not working, or we have several things we could be doing but we're not sure what to do, so we find ourselves on the internet again. It seems like this is a good opportunity to shift things up in our daily routine. For example, I've just started turning the computer completely off at sometimes because it's just too easy to walk into my desk and have 6 other projects I could do, and instead I get sucked back into Facebook.
Yep, I think that's well said. Ding.
Thank you.
And
For self-imposed
if
addiction.
anybody watching this, either real time today, what is today's date? The 16th?
Mm-hmm.
The 16th of March. Yesterday was the 15th. What is the 15th of March, Shakespeare expert?
The Ides of March.
Ding, ding, ding. What happened on the Ides of March?
Caesar was stabbed.
Julius Caesar was murdered by stabbings. Yes. So yeah, I normally try to do something to commemorate that event. I mean, that was a great day if you're a Celtic person.
It threw me off because I thought you were going for St. Patrick's Day.
No, that's tomorrow.
The 14th.
That's
It's the 14th. It's already passed.
No.
It's the 16th.
It's the
17th.
16th. Oh, 17th. I don't know.
Tomorrow, wear
I
green. He's a day early on the screen.
Right.
I'll wear green tomorrow. You don't get the pinch. She gets the pinch, but you don't. Even if I wear green, she gets the pinch. So if you're watching this live on the 16th of March 2020 by Earth's erroneous calendar, or if you watch this later, if there's ever a time when you don't know what to do, call me. And I will give you instructions on what you should be doing, especially if you're a formal student.
Split my wood. No.
Yeah, I mean, I will give you reading assignments. I will give you meditation assignments. So we have a human race to save. We have a planet to save. And if you can't find anything to do to further those ends, shame on you. Call me. I'll give assignments. Any other questions online?
Give them a minute.
Any other questions here in the live studio audience?
Well, isn't there something like the American Book of the Dead to read out loud for humanity, but for the living?
Yes, it's called the Handbook for the Recently Incarnated.
So we can read that out loud. Seriously, we can read that out loud.
I don't care if you read it out loud or silently, or you go out into the street corners and read anybody that doesn't run away, or read it to anybody who doesn't run away. Yeah, it's when you get the book, you will understand. It is a very complex technology. It is tapped into a number of places in the higher planes designed to unlock something, and that's all the more I'm going to say on that.
Okay.
It's a complex technology. Anything online? Mostly silent tonight?
Mostly silent. Well, you can always read the ABD for those alive and past.
Just shift the paradigm?
Shifts anything.
Look how much it's going through this class has shifted things for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, there's a lot of things that cause paradigm shift, perspective shifts, transformation that's very real, and none of them work if you don't do them. You know, it's that old lead a horse to water but can't make it drink phenomenon, which unless you're a farmer or a rancher, you probably don't get it, but those city folks are probably saying, what is a horse? What is water?
Well, it's kind of like running an orb. I think everything is based off of your intent. And then, okay, so you have the intent to wake up humanity, and so you run an orb, or you knit with attention, or you go out and mow your lawn with attention, you know.
Yeah, I did some of that work today, not with the orbs, it was another project with intention on the messages I needed to bring through today. So there's a lot of ways of doing that, but
So step up everyone's intention.
right. So long story short, saving humanity and your own transformation need to become job one. And everything else is secondary. We are at the time where it's game on. Okay, there's no more planning, there's no more preparation, it's time to step up and do it. And I'm not saying that in a fear-based way, I'm saying that in a be proactive way, because the time of change is here. This is what you incarnated for. Every one of you watching this came here to this planet at this time for a very specific reason, and it's not to sit around, drink beer, watch sitcoms. Sorry, that ain't it. There's maybe 5 people on the planet who came here to serve as bad examples for others. They might fit that criteria. The rest of you got work to do, so get busy.
Maybe, I think there might be more than 5.
Probably not, actually. The rest are just screwing up big time. They're missing the boat. They are providing a bad example, but that's not their true purpose for being here.
When you look at like a tribal community, everybody has to kind of get along. There's going to
Right.
be differences, but there's going to be in every group 2 or 3 bad examples.
Right.
Now, when they
Quest
start,
for fire.
when they start gathering too many buddies, they're going to throw off the balance, and then you've got a whole group that's a bad example.
The movie called Quest for Fire was set in caveman days. And there was this tribe, and because there was these 3 bad apples that didn't believe the warning that bad things were coming, they got raided and their fire went out. And they didn't know how to make fire. They only could get fire, when lightning struck someplace, and they would keep it going. They never let the fire go out.
It's like the Olympic torch.
Yeah.
Way to get it.
And so, long story short, a team is sent off to get fire. They succeed. They bring back fire, and these 3 people, the bad guys, want to steal it for themselves, and so they get the credit for having found the fire. And it doesn't go exactly as those 3 would have planned. I don't want to spoil the movie because it's a good one to watch.
Okay.
But yeah, you get those bad apples and bad things happen. So then you experience some version of what the Amish would call a shunning,
Been shunned.
or a driving them out of town with tar and feathers or whatever it was, or just barbecue them for dinner, in some places. Those were the days, huh? Okay, if there's no questions, we're going to stop here. Get busy. Do good, avoid evil.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, do you guys need help starting this weekend or
Hang
something?
on. We're not on offline.
Oh.